A whole load of them gave their lives for this country. They sacrificed their lives because they wanted the image of our country to be portrayed in good light.
Thank you very much, Auntie. I want you to tell us a few things. What was Nigeria like in those days in terms of ethics and morality and so on and so forth? And there was this story that you told when we saw on Sunday about Chief Rewane and his influence or his assistance to one of the very big politicians at that time. I don't know if you can repeat that story for us so that some people...
Yes. Well, there were a few Nigerians who had Nigerians are enterprising. If you look, cuts across the whole gamut, a lot of Nigerians are very enterprising. Even our women work very hard, but maybe in terms of what they have to show for it, that is a bit, in question. But people like Alfred Rewane, they had gone into the timber business, as well as other businesses that were not very clear to us as children. Not dubious business, of course, because they were selling things to Swiss, sending products, Nigerian products, produce to Switzerland and various countries, and earning money in foreign currency. We don't know how much those were worth. But Uncle Alfred Rewane, our uncle Bensura Land, who was another Ichekuri man, and Chief Okunowo, Chief Shoni Bare, they were the richest Nigerians at that time. I'm talking about when I was in Form 1, at the age of 14, we knew that these men had cars, and when they were bringing their children to school, they came, driven with big, huge cars. Now, Uncle Fred Rewane, I think, was attracted to the charisma of Chief Obafemi Awolowo, and he invited him to his office. He had a big complex then that actually rivaled the Ikoyi Club, because the Ikoyi Club was known as the European Club. But people who wanted to have their own fun in their own environment came over to Yaba and Commercial Avenue to have fun at this big, huge complex. I'll remember the name in a minute. And he spoke to him about, the founding of the Action Group. On that very day, reports came back to Uncle Fred, because that's where all the lawyers, Lawyer Lashman, Lawyer Marsh, Lawyer Hardin, and so many other prominent Nigerians would come and refresh themselves after going to court in central Lagos. There were no traffic holders, so it was quite easy for them. Now, after the event, he asked for the person they were talking about, and they said, oh, he's just walking down the road from Sabo. Sabo is very close to Commercial Avenue. And he hadn't reached Adekunle when they caught up with him and said, this man who owns this Ambassador Club at the time, that's what it was called, would like to have a chat with you. And of course, he turned back. He could easily say, no, I finished my campaign here. I finished launching this Action Group party, which actually originated from the people who used to gather around him, because he was a letter writer then, and he was also a lawyer, brilliant lawyer at that. And he walked back to Ambassador Hotel. Uncle Fred offered him a drink. He said, no, I'm sorry, I don't drink. But everybody else was having beer. Most of the men, prominent lawyers then drank beer. And of course, some other stiff drinks. And he said, no, I don't drink. He said, how are you going to relate to people if you don't drink? He said, well, that is my own, policy. And he kept to it till his last breath. So these are astute people who would hold on tenaciously to their own belief. He didn't drink and he didn't deviate. He didn't change his ways. He didn't marry more than one wife at the time, and he remained, loyal to his wife, who we all knew as Mrs. H.I.G. Awolowo, wife of inestimable value. So he came back, and Fred now asked him, how did you come? How come you're just walking from here down to the road? Where's your car? And Chief Awolowo said, I'm sorry, I don't have a car. And I enjoyed walking. And he threw his agbada from right to left and said, well, that's how, I move around. So Uncle Fred said, if you're going to lead a party, we all know about Zeke. Zeke also has a following. Zeke had inherited NCNC from the late Herbert Macaulay, who was one of the greatest names that ever lived in Nigeria. He was the founding father of NCNC, and their party was known as the Democratic Party of Nigeria in some areas of the country. So Uncle Alfred Rewane now offered him a car. He said, look, I have this car here, which has been giving me trouble. That the colonial masters wanted to know the source of his income, where he got the money from to buy the car. And they went actually like what you are having with hush puppies now. They investigated him and they found that all was clear. His other cousin, who was BK Sutherland, also had a car. They impounded both cars. And after 6 months of investigation and finding out how they got the money to buy the cars, which were American cars, but the colonial masters wanted them to be driving either Austin Princess if they were rich, or Vauxhall Victor. After querying them and interrogating them for a while, he released the cars back to them. So Uncle Fred said he's not going to touch that car ever. Maybe when one of his children qualified from school. But he felt drawn to Chief Awolowo and his ideals and all the programs that it set, for the progress of Nigeria before we launched, first of all, for Western Nigeria, because they were now proposing the Western Nigeria to go as an independent region, whilst the North was not ready and the East followed the West. So he now offered him this car and said, okay, I hand you over the keys. Chief Awolowo said, I'm sorry, I don't drive. Wow, you don't have a car, you don't drive, you don't drink. What then do you do? The man said, all I want is the best for Nigeria. Nigeria had actually been given the name. So Uncle Fred told you the story that where I come from Warri. People in Warri had been in touch with the Europeans for over 400 years. If we didn't have all the history written down, his ancestors, one of the Olusa, being the first African to write a letter to the Pope in the year 15-something, they would have been submerged because all the other tribes that came around felt that the Jegris are very small people, so we can actually push them down. But because they have their history, they have everything written down. Most of the people were learned. So he had no fears about anything. He had no qualms about his own business. One of the Olus had studied in the University of Cumbria, Atuwache the first. So when Chief Awolowo heard about his pedigree, he said, oh, he relaxed a bit, accepted the car as well as the driver who was attached to the car and was coming to collect, money for fueling the car all the time. So that made it easy for the Action Group Party to take off on a very easy scale. So there was no problem for the Action Group there because the NCNC people, had all the following of the other bigger people and people from the East who were very enthusiastic about following Zeke and his West African Pilot. That was the name of the paper. Later on, I think Chief Awolowo started the Tribune. And most of those things have been going on well. And the friendship between Chief Obafemi Awolowo and Chief, he wasn't a chief, Mr. Alfred Iwanye, was his older brother that was in one family in my place. The older brother would take the title, the chieftaincy title, and the younger one would be very happy to remain your minister. So that was how the action group, and most of the people from our party, from our part of the country, now followed them into the action group. So that was how things were at the time. Of course, people like Okotie-Eboh themselves, living next door to the prime minister, he, from what the lecture that Fakide gave one year, he said he had made his own money. He had built a rubber plant, rubber industry, a shoe factory, school, which he named after Zik. Zik Institute is still standing today in Sapele, built by the late Chief Okotie-Eboh. And he helped to finance the NCNC on that, at that level also. And they were astute businessmen. They didn't steal anybody's money. They had worked for their money before they went into politics. And I think most of the set down rules by the colonial masters, they kept to them very tenaciously. They didn't deviate. When it was time to hand over to them, it was quite easy and smooth sailing. The only questions that a few people that were behind them, the problem we asked was, what's going to happen when the northern parts become independent? But when they went for the constitutional conference, I think it was all settled. They came back home and everything, and they had a broad-based government, which was running until maybe when we had the first coup. But there you are.
Thank you.
In Lagos, they had the local, the Lagos City Council, which was run by the Democratic Party, and Chief Adeyemi Lawson was the first. First of all, it was Olorunimbe. The statue of Olorunimbe is somewhere there, and I don't think anybody looks at the statue when they are passing by. They don't look at those people anymore. Members of their family, how the party developed, how it went into oblivion, nobody seems to know. But there should be somewhere where there should be a record, there should be a hall of fame, where you can have the names of these people for the new generation to learn from. When people form their own parties now, they just think of one or two people that they see around. They can't cast their minds back, to the pre-independence days. Who were these people? Who are these heroes whose labor has now gone almost into oblivion, except for one or two things. If you want information from any of the TV stations, you have to run to the BBC to get them. And if you put them in any office here, somebody will set fire to them. I don't know why that kind of thing, has infected our country. Why people put fire to city halls, why people sell the National Theatre, which is a symbol of, culture, which was built for Festac 77, which is the greatest festival of Black arts and culture in the whole world. There has never been another one like that. All the documents were at the National Theatre. One day, that part of the theater was set on fire. But people were still using the place for entertainment, for cinemas and things like that. Now, all that has also gone down. And now they're going to be used as banks. If you go to England, you go to Trafalgar Square, you want to watch a play, you will go to Tottenham Court Road. The theaters that we watch plays before independence, they are still standing till tomorrow. Why can't we maintain all those monuments? Why can't we retain the names of these people that have been there since time immemorial? I don't know how I can answer any of those questions. I'm not the oldest person in Nigeria. I'm sure there are still some people who are much older than me, who have the history. Maybe if we cast our minds back and bring those people out, to focus on some of these areas, or how the whole thing degenerated to the points where we have found ourselves now, where our money, when we went abroad in those days, you had the Naira, you could just walk into England with your green passport, and do your shopping and come back home to enjoy the fruits of your own labor without taking money from any politician. But if we don't look, Yoruba say, if you don't know where you are going, you surely must know where you are coming from. And I think it will all go crash, bang, 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 until we can find out how those people were able to hold their heads high, how they were able to travel abroad with on their own, maybe little allowance that was was paid to them, or whatever they had from the party coffers, to where we are now. People are earning some astronomical money, and when they hear that there are poor people around, they don't even want to listen or hear anything about the poor. People are going to that in abject poverty if we don't go back and make sure that we rectify all these ills. If we don't go back and see how people like Chief S.O. Adebo, people like Justice Iwodaro, we're supposed to be in government, people like Antonia Nahoro, who raised the motion for the independence of Nigeria and suffered and went to jail and was brought back, ran to England and was brought back as a fugitive offender. If we don't find that, because if he had money, I don't think if he was bribing people, corruption was not in the country at the time. He had his own newspaper, I think the Southern People's paper, which he ran from age 21, that's Anthony Nahoro. That's why he, first of all, was in the party of Zik and helped to set up the West Africa pilot. So if we don't look back and see how those people fared, how they held their heads high, how they didn't dabble into spurious kind of affairs, and they were astute. Awolowo was astute, everybody knew that. Even Chief S.N. Akintola, who broke away from him and formed his own party when they had the problem in the West. Then there was, I think the government, I can't remember the exact word they use now. It was then that I think Chief Majekodunmi, Dr. Majekodunmi, who was the Minister for Health at the federal level, now came to administer the affairs of the Western region. Of course, they now reconciled some of the other parties, people like Fani Kayode joined Akintola to form another, from opposition party, they merged with Akintola and they formed the party, the UNPP. And then everything went smooth sailing until, of course, we had the first coup. If you ask Nigerians these days, do you know the date of the first coup? They can't remember. But they know the price of the Naira because they want to go and spend their money abroad. Everybody wants to go abroad. Everyone wants to run away from this country.
Let me slow you down a little bit and ask you some very specific questions. How do you see politics in Nigeria today compared to the politics as of old? And what do you think we should do in Nigeria to try and get ourselves back on track and make Nigeria what you all dreamt of in those days in 1957?
All the parties, I live in England, and I've spent some time in America.
The questions from here.
Most of the parties, you only have a two-party system, or three. When the SDP started in England, people, were jolted out of their senses. How could they have the Lib Dem, and then the SDP came. So there are about four parties: the Labour Party and the Conservative Party are the main parties in those countries. In our own days, it was very strange when we heard that there was another party coming up from the north called the NEPU, which was headed then by a very famous Talakawa man who really loved the poor and wanted to fight for them and liberate them from the clutches of the elites. So he formed NEPU. Nobody knows, I'm sure, what NAPU stands for now. But a lot of them were thrown in jail, including a woman who was an activist then, Gambo Sawaba. She, I think, was married off to a man that she didn't really want to marry at the time, to a child bride. And at 16, she was married off, and she wanted to go to school and be educated. She was embraced, because when she heard about the ideologies of the NAPU, I think she was attracted to that. And it was unheard of in the North for a woman to be so outspoken and to be standing side by side with a man campaigning. So they threw her in jail. I think she spent more years in jail than she spent outside, but she never stopped campaigning for her people. Women like Mrs. Ransom Kuti, whose children, she blazed the trail for her children, because the husband was also someone who was an educationist, and people knew, for many prominent Nigerians, a lot of them are still alive, went to school in Abeokuta, run by the Reverend Ransom Kuti. Of course, you know, Fela was the rebel of the family, but he's the one that is keeping the family alive as of now. So there were lots of women. Margaret Echo was one of the significant figures, prominent in her own right in the NCNC. And every time they went for the conference, I think she was the female voice there that represented, the women folk. So if we had 2 or 3 parties at that time, although they tried to suppress the NAPU, and much later, after the coup and all that, the Talakawas decided that they could join other parties, they could join the other parties and make some money by being, that was how corruption crept into the country. But all these other parties, if we have more than 5 or 6 parties in Nigeria, I don't think democracy will survive in this country. Of course, maybe that is the way God wants it. But if we have about 30-something parties, the youth should be given a chance. Most of the people we're talking about were in their 30s when they went into politics. I remember when Professor Okotiebo came to, ask for the hands of my auntie, Oma Okoroyi. Nobody, he was a young man, a fresher. He also married, of course, his legal wife was Victoria, with whom he went to the House of Parliament. But you have to put all these things into perspective. They were above board. They were not corrupt in any way. So they knew what was good for the country. But policies of then were selfless. Selfless service which they rendered to the country. Like I said, because some of them even gave their lives at the end of the day. Because when there was the first coup, Okotiebo was killed, Tafawa Balewa was killed, Akintola was murdered. So nobody wants to die in poverty. These people had money. They were the ones that were feeding the party. They were, financing the parties. And when they died, they could have just gone into oblivion. But they bounced back again in the Second Republic. I think that was when Shehu Shagari and his vice president came back into power. With this, the first national anthem was thrown into the ocean. People were still remembering that, and some of that anthem was rising. Compatriots, nobody knew who his compatriots was. Up to now, we're still searching, who is my compatriot? Nigeria called Obe. Which call are you calling out to people? Do you want to make a sacrifice for Nigeria? No one is ready to make any sacrifice anymore. Everybody wants something because they know that from the time that the soldiers handed back to the civilians, things had gone, the boat became very rocky. It was quite well stable and going very smoothly. If things are not going smoothly like that, everybody wants to go and grab his own and run. Nobody wants to, you hear that some people are making so much money. Why do you want to render selfless service to anybody? So the young ones, the younger elements cannot, I don't see how, except their fathers are financing them or their family already has money, which they will give them to run the country. People like Chief S.O. Badamosi, his children went into other areas. Rashid Badamosi, of course, was the first, the youngest minister in Mobolaji Johnson's government at the time, but he was not interested in politics. And so his older sister, who later became Attorney General, Mrs. Folami, was in Marwa's government, but they are not interested in politics. The money they inherited from their father, they don't want to spend it the way the father did. And then one day somebody came and from the barracks and drove them out, and seized some of their properties. We really have to go back to the drawing board. The younger ones, if they don't want to, it's not like you are in the middle of Tinubu Square or in the middle of Sabo Market and say somebody is distributing something, come and take and go away. No, you really have to sit down. If the young ones can decide on who is going to lead them, they have to put their heads together. There has to be a leader. You can't have 60-something leaders, 30-something leaders. Even among the young ones of now, those who have tasted, things from maybe contracts that they have done. Giving contracts out to people ruin this country up to a certain level. Because if you are not one of those that get the contract and put it in your pocket, you are looking at the other person and say, okay, one day my hand is going to, I'm going to go into that same area and make money the way this friend of mine, not through hard work, not through the hint of hard work or inherited money. There are families of the Darochas who made a lot of money, the Duartes. None of them, they're not hearing their names now because they want to keep everything for their family, for their own comfort. And they are doing very well. They don't owe anybody anything. People all over the country, even in the north, I don't think Saldanha or any of the students into business, into government, into party politics. We cannot even identify those who want to come in now. There has to, if it is possible for the government to do kind of a structure and form the party and ask people to join the parties, which nobody else, is going to accept these days. Everybody wants to be the leader. I want to be the leader, even at 80-something. That's not fun. The younger ones, if you go out and protest, make sure you have the symbol of those people who had given their lives. Let everybody now come together and say, the party of Harold Macmillan is the one that I'm going to join. The party of Churchill, those are the heavyweights. Let us give the party a name, but in brackets, one of the heroes. If there's no hero attached to any of the parties, they are going to cause a lot of confusion. There's going to be a lot of corruption all over again. Even if you go into the National Assembly now, a lot of people are just grab and go, grab and go. If you go into they are going to run a sporting outfit, most of the people have to go and take a delegate from some of them before they can go to the Olympics and run for Nigeria. There is no political ideology. It's grab and go. I don't know what else name I can call it, but coming from Warri, we were not, when we have a history of over 400 to 500 years. So have the Benins. So are, the people, of course, from the north, the elites from the north. And of course, from the east, you have people like Zeke's name will never die, because the people of the east will always hold in in high esteem. If you ask any of the people fighting in that area now, when the war broke out in Nigeria, I'm sure some of them don't even know. They just know that, okay, we got something, we went to war. If you ask any young man, when I go out, when I meet people at social gatherings, I ask, what year did the Nigerian Civil War break out? They can't even tell you. When I say it's January 1969, that's a long time ago, Mama. Nobody wants to listen to you. No political ideology. I tried to go into the Senate in 2003. By the time I got to Warri, everything had been shared out. And that is what is still going on now. Anybody who's at the top considers the whole thing in his own pocket. And unless you are ready to bow down and kneel down before them, you can never get anywhere. You have to be in servitude. Are we going to be slaves to some of those people that have just come down? I'm not saying that we should create a party around Chief Awolowo or Akintola, SL Akintola, but if we can try to narrow it down to a certain, image that will be acceptable to different parts of. We even have people now. It's just that everything has gone into split things. We have 35 governors running around the whole place. Some of them today, they will be in one party. Another day, they will jump fence, carrying umbrella to take a broom. Okay, if you are going to have a party symbol for any party now, if you have 36 parties, how many symbols are you going to use? In those days, you had the cock. When I was a young girl, I was only 13. I used to love, going to watch Zeke. And at the end of the day, everybody would shout, Z. That, was something that was endearing rather. And people wanted to say, okay, I want to be identified with the cock because the cock crows and wakes up in the morning. Later on, we had a play on NCA called Cock Crows at Dawn. And of course, that's not a symbol of NCNC, but it's just that it's a reawakening and drawing people to work on the farm. It didn't work, the idea of getting people to work on the farm, because it was the setting, well, like most of the actors then were like people that you look up to now as Nollywood actors and actresses. Maybe we'll get something, work something out from there. And the action group was the symbol was the palm tree, which grows and produces fruit. If we can have maybe 4 or 5 parties, 2 would have been ideal, or 3. But I know a very wonderful young man who lives in England, who wants to come and rule this country, who is brilliant. I'm sure people at home, each one has someone. But I don't see any material as we speak now, except what is happening in our present situation. Those are the only ones that have actually, helped people by the jugular, if you want to put it that way. If they don't appoint somebody and put that person there, nobody is going to look at them. So where do we go from there? Is there if anybody has a solution? I don't. The party that I joined then was called UNPP. At that time, nobody knew what United National People's Party was. But the person who started the party was, very nice young man from the north. And he had a friend in government before, and his wife was from my own part of the country. She was I never met her until, I lost the election, of course, going to the Senate. But things are still going on. The parties that are there now don't want to leave the arena. So who's going to throw his hat in now? You don't want somebody as a chairman, you don't want this as that. If the other people are fighting, what chance has the younger ones got? But I'm sure that there will be a solution. There will be definitely a solution. And it will be just around the corner, even as we speak now. Because if things continue this way, it will be very, very unfortunate Nigeria, a country that everybody looked up to. Wherever you went, it was with pride that you went to England. You could go and take your whole family on holidays, go on Nigeria Airways, which had a lot of aircrafts then. So we don't even know where we're going now. I can't identify any Nigerian carrier now. But we can still get to our destination at exorbitant, paying through our nose to get at the end of the journey. In order to make that money, where is it going to come from? Are you a cocoa farmer? In those days, it was only cocoa farmers before oil was discovered in Nigeria. People in that area, they don't even know where they're going. If some money is given to the people in the National Assembly are waiting to get their own cuts. Or they don't even want the money to reach those people, so they find a way to block it. And they can be standing there, carrying placards and running all over the place, but they have the authority to make some laws that will put a clog in the wheel of progress of those people. They have the right to control the lives of those people. You are from Ogoni, your oil, no water, no, you don't even have electricity to start with. Even if you have share, you have oil, you have everything, nothing. It's almost a hopeless case, but we don't want to give up. Even at my age, I would love to have, to talk. The way you are doing now is the best. What you're doing now, have a focus, today is Youth International Day. So the youths have to take their own lives in their hands, their own future in their hands, and find a direction, decide that they are not going to follow the older generation. The older generation have been there for so long. If you really mean well for us, you will turn around and pick a young person to run the affairs of the country. If the power is still in your hands and you don't want to let go, we pray that they would have the fear of God, the conscience. Because if you are going like this and you're handing over for one old person to another, we're all jaded. If you are over 65, you can't think straight anymore. You're always thinking of your own family, your own children, or your own kids and kin to put in that next place. You can't think straight. If you want to do things properly, sit around, call the young people together, and find a way by which you can hand over. When soldiers have had a coup, they sit around. They are friends. It's from there that they will pick somebody who will run the affairs of the country. We were all in this country when General Yakubu Gowon took over. He was only 35, 34, going on 35 when he took over. It was after he took over that he decided to get married and raise his own family for close to 9 years. He was in office. And he had no people around him. So maybe someday the older generation would look back. If the power is still in their hand, if God wants it to be so, because I'm sure that one day God will show all of us the light and we'll be able to say, blessed be God. Yes, redeemed all of us. If I'm still alive, if it happens in my lifetime, I'm very happy.
Let me ask you a question, and then we're going to open the floor for people to ask questions. I'm sure you know a lot of these older politicians here and there, this and that. What do you think you can do to try and convince them to let younger people or more credible people take a chance at this leadership thing? Is there anything you are willing to do? What would you like to do? What can you do? Or what would you suggest that people of your generation do?
I know a lot of people. When we meet, we speak. We even see religious leaders coming in to celebrate Christmas or Salah. We mingle and we ask, questions. When I saw the Speaker of the House at one of the homes of one of our leaders. I greeted him because I knew his father and his uncle who was commissioner before in Lagos State. I mean, in Lagos, where we all grew up. I went to St. Mary's Convent School on Broad Street and Holy Child College in Abayinde. I asked, I said, oh, when are you going to be the head of, I don't want to mention the position now. And he said, with your prayers, Mama. This was shortly before he actually took over the reins of that office. And I believe that he's doing very well. There are many more like that. So it just hurts me when somebody takes office like that, and the next thing you hear that they have gone to Dubai to have a party with 200 and something people because the money has got into their heads. It's amazing that you don't have the leaders or the head of government in England going to spend holiday with his family and having a party in another man's country. No matter how beautiful that country is, Nigeria still remains your country while you are in office. I was hurt, I was disappointed that such a young man who has seen the whole world, who studied in America, who did everything. I don't have hunger for any other person's country. I only go for health reasons. That's why I spent 6 months in England and 6 months here. But the moment somebody gets into office, he becomes a totally different person. He wants to go here, there. How many shoes are you going to buy? How many tall buildings are you going to see? You have not built anything in your own country. You have not even put your own state, the office that you are now holding, on a sound footing. And you are hopping around to take somebody to go and see this, go and see that. How many times are we going to go and visit other people's countries? When people are going, paying money to say, hey, I want to go and go across the river. If you have your own money, of course, you can go on holiday, you can enjoy yourself. But whilst you are in office, people should be made to remain in their country. There should be a law. They won't make the law for them to stay in Nigeria and bring all the good health services to their own country. No, it is better for us to go and do it abroad. Since I came 6 months ago, I have been going to different areas to see how we can improve the health services of people who have sickle cell anemia. How are you going to look at people with sickle cell anemia if you are spending 100 million naira to enjoy yourself in Dubai? So that puts me off. I think some young people, once they go like that, they say, oh, we're going to go abroad. And then some of the young people who are now chairmen of local government areas, you see them when I go on public transport. And when you're going, they will be playing one thing for about 2-3 hours of somebody who has just won election to the party. Standing on one spot with one musician, the musician is playing and is spraying that person with money. Maybe money that should be spent to build roads for the people of his area. He's using that money to spray the musician. And the musician is there. And somebody is now saying, when he has finished spending all the naira that he brought, only God knows how many millions he brought to spray this man. Other people are spraying him and he's spraying the person. You can have the party without spraying anybody. If you want to pay the musician. In those days when we were young, we called somebody and we gave him some money to come and play, to entertain us. We paid people money to come and entertain us on TV. Jonah Depo, Ogunde, we didn't go anywhere to spray them. They were well-known names who knew their business well, who knew what music people would love. They did all those things. And yet, we didn't have to spray them in public. And that becomes a show that other people are going to be watching. You are a young man, you are 45, you just, been lucky enough to be placed over other people to run office as chairman. And you are standing there. Somebody is spraying you. Somebody is spraying money. And EFCC says this thing has been banned. In spite of that, we are all wearing the same. Okay, all right, that promotes, the business of the material that you are wearing. The industry. When one of our governors, Fashola, did, an appraisal of how much people spend on Ashwebi, he said we should continue wearing Ashwebi because it's ranked into billions, and that is going to promote that industry. So people are going to be doing business there. Let us all wear the same cloth. Let us wear the same cloth. Let us collect dress from the same factory. Let us collect the material like they used to do in China in those days. Everybody wore khaki. On Monday, you wear green khaki. On Tuesday, you wear blue khaki. Okay, let's wear blue Accra on Monday and another one on. So we all know that we are all Ashwebi people. We're all wearing the same dress. We want people to wear Ashwebi because it's the same jeans and shirt that they all wear. But we want to wear lace. Lace is made in Switzerland. And it costs a lot of money. You would expect that a woman, when she comes into office, will say, okay, all of us, like the way that our former Minister of Finance.
Please, can you mute your mics? Auntie Julie, we're going to start asking you some questions. So those who are ready to ask questions, raise your hands, because some people are on the platform and they want to ask a few questions and ask you one or two things.
I'm ready. Sorry, I went. That is something that has been agitating my mind for people, to be lavishing money when EFCC says it is wrong to do so. You are a government official, you are representing government. What message are you sending to people? And it is right to give money and throw it on somebody's head. And that person can dance all the way and take the money home. I'm ready.
Okay. Who are those who have any questions? Yes, I see some hands being raised. Auntie Nicked Grange, I'm sure you have a question. I'm sure you two, you were wearing bomfo in those days all over the streets of Nigeria. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question and remind us of your bomfo and your Afro wigs and all those things?
Thank you so much, Pastor Godalo, for giving us this treat to meet with my sister again, Julie Coker of those days. Wonderful. I'm so proud of you. It's wonderful, And, I wish I had half the memory that you have. You are just, you are a bunch of stories of a think tank. Please, we must write this down. Put it on paper, please. Julie, that's wonderful. I'm so pleased to see you looking so well and so happy. And what I want to say is this, that all that you have been trying to tell us, oh my goodness, what's going on?
They're just trying to show us some throwback pictures.
I can hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you.
Okay. All you've been trying to tell us is that in our days, we imbibe certain values which made us find a purpose in life, and we worked hard to achieve that purpose. We also find that now in our old age, we feel contented. That feeling of contentment is what the younger ones should be looking out for. If all the time they are looking for, money, in their old age, they may not be contented because money does not buy happiness. Money does not buy you prestige or honor, or. So thank you, Julie, for telling us that. The stories resonate with mine, and so I'm not going to go over them again. You've talked about politicians, you've talked about professionals, etc. What I want to say is that you've done us proud to remember all these people. And there are some books that have been written. We have to look for them. I remember a book that was written about women, some time ago, 1,000 women or whatever in Africa. And we have to look for them and try and extract some of these stories and put them in. Not just women, men, of course. There was one historian in Lagos. I can't remember his name now. I don't have such a memory as yours. You remember a very good historian in Lagos who has written so much about Lagos and but anyway, never mind about that. So there are people who have written. Kishe Moyin. Yes, so my dear, you are beating me to this thing. We shall not have memory loss before our time comes. So thank you for reminding me. Akinshe Moyin. Oh, I used to be a fan of his. And I used to be a fan of yours, by the way, Jilly Coker. I know it was mutual. The feeling was mutual because you always called me up on time and, we had fun together. Well done. Excellent. Let me leave the place for other people to talk. I see my friend here. She was right here. And Dr. Ademiluyi. Dr. Ademiluyi was also one of us, But anyway, yes, I wore my mini. I did everything, but we did not overdo it. We did not overdo it. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Pastor. Thank you. Right.
You are a Bonfo wearer.
Yeah, I was definitely.
All right. Mr. Olowe has a question. Femi Olowe, please ask your question. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm so appreciative of this. Mommy, thank you. May the Lord keep you for us. Now, I could see that in your presentation, I could deduce that you are trying to recommend streamlining political parties that we have in Nigeria to like 3, 4, or 5, that this is going to help the country a lot. Now, I want to now ask, is it in place if today I personally, I as a person, I try to push for the like minds to precipitate and form an ideal political party like the one you have mentioned, that Alfred Rwano, Chief Obafemi Awolowo, Enauru, all came together to constitute at their different areas. Will it not be out of place given the fact that we have almost 30 plus political parties today?
That is a problem. It's very difficult to even remember some of the names. You just coin names. What about the ideology? If you go into the ocean, there are a limited number of fish that you can catch in this area. You know where you get your tilapia. You know where you get, different species of fish. But political parties even go beyond that. If you throw all the papers in the river, it won't be enough to cover the ground. So we have to put it into prayer that God will guide us and deliver us.
Thank you very much,
and raise up for us. Raise up for us someone who will liberate us, somebody who will save us, the young ones, even at this time.
So, Mommy, my question is that, is it acceptable to now call like minds and making the starting point to be the formation
party?
Yeah.
A political party, I believe, is a conglomerate of people with similar ideology.
Yeah.
What ideology are you going to sell? What ideology are you selling? Or you are not afraid to sell. Sometimes you have an ideology. You want to sell that ideology, but you are shy. You are afraid. You believe that it will not sell. It will not go down well with people. So you dance to their tunes. You dance to other people's tunes. Yes, of course. You don't want to jettison, your own values and say, all right, because people won't like me telling them, not to wear, for women not to wear lace anymore. I'm not afraid to tell women not to wear lace. When we were on television, you were only allowed to wear Nigerian costume from Ibadan days. And I believe they still do that. That is still in practice. It was Anthony Nahru, who was then the Minister for Information. And later when he came to Lagos, of course, Chief Benson, he was, someone who loved his culture and loved to wear cultural, Nigerian costumes. Even in those days, when they went for the Constitutional Conference, I think in 1956 or so, they were all, wearing their traditional costumes. And Charles Benson stood out. And he was following Zip. He followed Zip till the very last day of his life. You don't say because this one is from my place, this one can catch more fish than any other person, so you are going to remain in his party. Of course, if he does anything that you don't like, you can jump and start your own party. But people like that in those days didn't form their party, haphazardly. They didn't just say, there were standards set by those, maybe we should behave like Moses. When he went to collect the 10 Commandments, he knew what God wanted, message God wanted him to deliver to people. And he asked the people, are you going to follow me to imbibe all these values that have been set down for us by God? If you want to form a political party, like I said earlier, it's a conglomerate of people, of course. What ideology are the parties that are ruling us now? What ideology?
Thank you very much.
We can't even remember what they sold to us. We just bought everything, hook, line, and sinker.
I agree. Thank you very much, Auntie.
Thanks so much.
Oyewumi wants to ask a question, and I think we'll take that as our last question and try and close
Thank
it.
you very much.
Okay, Yemisi, please, your question or your comment.
Good evening. Good evening, Pastor. Good evening, ma.
Thank you.
Good evening, ma.
Yes. I can.
Hello, good evening. Yeah.
Good evening. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening, ma. It's actually a privilege to see you after a very long time. Please pardon me to first say this because I know the last time I saw you was in my primary school days, in the days of the NTA, that my father forced us to watch news from 7, 9, and 11 news, blah, blah. And when I was sent the invites to join, I was like, oh, it's mommy. Let me see how charming she's still going to look. And it's actually not a surprise, ma. You're doing a good job, ma. My question now, ma, is that how do we have, because from everything you have said, in the next 20 years, with the circle of political leaders we have that has encamped Nigeria, is there still a chance for us to have a reformed Nigeria? Because it's like it's being passed from hand to hand, and people are there for their greedy interests. In those days, from everything you have said, people were not there for greedy interests. They were there because they wanted to serve and they wanted to have a better country. But it's no more like that. So how do we now go about it? What's the way out to have a true leadership? That's my question now.
Well, that's a very difficult question. But I believe that the people who are there now believe they are serving us to the best of their ability. It is for us now to decide that We're not going to be, led by the nose anymore. It is left for us. If we do not decide that we're not going to follow you anymore, you have led us, down to the river. If we agree within ourselves that these are the things that these are the values that we want to set those things down. This is where we want to go. We want to go to the promised land. We want to turn our country back and claim it back with the way it was in the past. If we could turn the hand of the clock back, we can say, yes, we too, we want to follow somebody like Mrs. Ransom Kuti. We want somebody like that. All our attributes, we write it down. All women, let us see how many of you can come and follow somebody like Mrs. Ransom Kuti. We look in the north, we say, this is Gambo Sawaba, a woman who could speak out, even where men were suppressing them and putting her in jail. She still stood out. And she says, this is what I believe in. She spends all her money sending children to school. How many people can do that now? How many people can decide that they're going to do that? If people have money, of course, maybe money doesn't go very far. You want it for yourself and for your children. But see all the money that is going on. Let us even put it all down to brass tacks. Let us place all our cards on the table. That is what it means in Yoruba. Let us put all the cards on the table and see where we're going. Start from home, then the community, and finally the country. Lead from the home. What values are we giving our children? Like I was telling younger brother the other day, a woman with her children were in a car, and somebody in front of them, the car in front of them, the street light was red, and the man was waiting for the light to change, and the woman was putting. There's a woman with children in the car, and when the man went past, she drove faster, caught up with him, and said, "Look at you! You must be a madman." And the children did made the same sign. So that woman has polluted the mind of her children that it is wrong to cross, that it is wrong to wait for the red light to change to green before you can carry on driving. So first of all, from the home, from our homes, we were brought up well. I was brought up, by nuns, by first Irish nuns in St. Mary's with Nigerian teacher, Mrs. Moniz, and all the rest of them. God bless their soul. And as Holy Child, we had all white nuns. They're not married, no children, no nothing. You decide for yourself how many children are you going to raise. And then you move into your pocket. In those days, civil servants, they never took anything home, but the tin of milk, one or two tins of milk from the office at the end of the week. They would ask the tea girl, how many tins of milk? We can't wait. Next week, they will give us more tea. Maybe we didn't have enough. Those were the things that they took home. Nobody took any government money home because they had enough and they were happy with what they had, the little. Like my sister who spoke earlier said, we were contented with what we had. Everybody was satisfied. The children even want more than what was being provided for them. Now, you have people who are just going for grabs. A woman will tell her children, well, if I take my own now, you will go in front to take another one. Already you have polluted the mind of that child. But if it is about, this is about home now, or if it's about politics, you already know where you are going. You know the enemy in front of you that you are going to fight. No one knew who Zik was. When they went for the election in the West, people voted for Zik. And Zik's party won the election even in the West, pre-independence, before they became, then one of our uncles, Reese Aduku, was the Speaker of the House. And they put everything down. They said, who is going to now lead the party? But when people like Chief Akinloye and all of them looked on the other side and they found Awolowo on the throne, they now crossed over. There were not too many Igbos there. A lot of the Yoruba people voted for Zik. They loved the symbol, they loved the way, his charisma, the way he carried himself. There was nothing wrong. That was the first day of carpet crossing. But there should be a limit to it. They say if you cross more than 2 times, you can't go anywhere. There's the Umunakwe, the young, he's British, but his father is Igbo, Umunakwe in England. He was in the Labour Party for many years. And Tony Blair was grooming him to take over the party, the Labour Party at that time, when the 2 brothers who were fighting, among themselves in Labour Party, one of them got the leadership of the party, but never won the election. And Tony Blair saw in him the image of somebody that he wanted as a first black man to be the head of the Labour Party. Well, when he lost to Jeremy Corbyn, he now became very unhappy. But the people in his area loved him. Some of my English friends, they would even speak about him anytime, anywhere, that he was the one that they really wanted. English people don't discriminate. In those days, they used to discriminate against us. But they found out that when our children are born in England, they do better than some of the other people. Our people are very lazy when they are in their own country. They say, this is my country. They want to work. I don't want to work hard. And that one is wrong. Everybody should show at the end of the day how much work, how much you are put into the organization you are working. Do it as if it's your own organization. They say, that kind of thing goes on in some areas. And we must remove those from our minds. So if we are going to form political parties, we should now bring all those to bear on the way to move forward. When you join my party, will you be working? Will you be sleeping? Will you be in the House of Reps? Instead of putting your feet up when you come to the House of Reps, will you sit down properly? Nigerians, they put up their feet to see them in the House of Reps. It's a shame. Now, coming back home, coming back to Umunakwe now decided he was mixing with too many Nigerians at a point. He now crossed from Labour Party to he knew that party was not going anywhere. Then he jumped from there to another party. At the end of the day, the party he joined, he lost the election. These are all Nigerians in England who stood the chance of leading the Labour Party. And if people got fed up with the Conservative Party, they will vote for Labour. And they wouldn't mind voting for him because he was well loved. But this idea of jumping from what, you should limit it. If you win election in this party, remain there until the end of the tenure. Then you can jump later and look for people who will vote for you. But now you can jump from here to there like a frog. It's not on. All those things are not written down. But people who are making the law, when they get there, they do it to suit themselves. Everybody says, oh, okay, we should have so much money from my area. Even though you don't grow cocoa, you say, come and give me something from there. Is that right? If you are not going to, in those days, the cocoa farmers were the richest people in Nigeria. Their children were the APT people who went to England and became professors and all that. Because they had their own money. If you are growing something in your place, why would you go and sell the thing to another person? Another person to come and buy from me and take it from me? Okay, Nigeria is a free country. We are told that we can go anywhere we like. Of course, we are free to do whatever we like. But in politics, you must show that this is my stand. And I'm going to remain there and try not to rock the boat. Because once you rock the boat of your party, you are rocking the boat of the entire nation. Nigeria is a country that is well respected. Look at the way we went to Olympics. On the BBC yesterday, the report said that people came to disgrace Nigeria. A girl who lives in America came to wear the colors of Nigeria. They didn't put their names down on record that this is where we are going. The person who is in charge of the outfit they are going to wear has already put the money in their pockets. When they reach, they say, we are eating and go on march past. Whereas this money has been provided. Then they will say, okay, don't you see somebody washing their own clothes. There's nothing wrong with that. When we were young, if you didn't have enough, you make sure you wash your clothes and iron it well before you come out so that it will be neat. There's nothing wrong with having one jersey. But the whole world is looking at Nigeria as a rich country. And here comes a man who is going to go and throw javelin or whatever it is for us. And he hasn't got a change of clothes. So these are the things. Don't put somebody else's money in your pockets. Like my sister earlier said, don't have something that should be distributed to other people. Don't claim it for yourself alone. There is a temptation for us, for all of us to do that, including me. But let us try as much as possible to look up to God and say, God, you're watching me. How can I take somebody's thing and put it in my pocket and claim it as my own? If I've been given something to divide to other people, I'll give it out first, and I will be the last to take. But I can't speak for everybody. I teach my children, my grandchildren, to say, don't take other people's things. Keep your own. If we have divided what we have on the table, if we're having dinner on the table, finish your own, the one that has been given to you. Don't stretch your neck and say, oh, somebody has the bigger wing of the chicken. That is what is killing Nigeria also. The younger people, I hope if they now agree to form their own parties, they're not going to turn around and say, oh, it's all for me. I started this party. I do this. You must be ready to share. You must be ready to, mingle with other people and listen to other people's opinion. Not me. Even as I speak now, when I go to a meeting among my people or ladies, I hardly speak because I've been speaking all my life. So I keep quiet and let other people have the chance to talk. I never hold any office when I go to anywhere. I said already, I'm here, there, and yonder. Then I come and impose myself again on the other people. Mr. President, the person who is the president, one ladies Vanguard, she's younger than me, so I won't listen to her. No, I listen quietly. You humble yourself, not put yourself down, of course, but you recall into yourself and let God speak to you. Say, let us listen to this person. Immediately you see people fighting, even at church levels. They're supposed to be doing this, they're supposed to be doing that, even women among themselves. Women, first of all, let us come together. Let us teach our children from home. And then we can speak to them. You want to form a party? Okay, good. What are you saying to them? Examine what they have to say. The mothers can still have a say by, fine-tuning some of the points that they have. If they say you cannot be the head of the party, what is the next line?
Thank you very much, Auntie. Thank you so much. We have all drank so much from your wealth of wisdom, and I am going to invite you back again and ask you some more specific questions on certain areas and certain issues of Nigeria, especially concerning administration and of course your special area. But we need to begin to round up this event right now because of all the other things that we need to set out. We have enjoyed extremely wonderfully well listening to you and taking you back to those days.
Thank you very much.
Hearing all
thank
the
you. I love you. I love you. I love all those people who have been online to speak with you.
I'm going to engage you on a one-on-one basis and ask you some specific things as to what we need to do before you go back to England. So I'd like to say thank you to everyone for coming today. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying on board. We are still registering people. If you want to register and be part of this movement, and this movement is supposed to help to transform Nigeria, to turn Nigeria around, bring out ideas and suggestions as to what we can do. Please see us on the website or see us on the information page, and then we'll take it from there. Auntie, I'm going to come and see you, and I'm going to come and discuss with you, and then we'll get a few other ideas. My love to the children and my love to all the grandchildren.
Love you. Bye. I have a whole team here with me. Come on along now. Come and say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
See you next week.
Bye. Take care. Look after Grandma. Okay. All right. Bye.
Thank you, ma. God bless you. And may God keep you for us.
Hello, darling. Disney Coca. I love you. Wish you well. God bless you. Congratulations. That you